Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm going to be going over today's market, and I'll also be going over yesterday's as well, which is the trade I ended up taking. I did post that on my live recaps. Coming into today, let's just get straight into it. Honestly, leaning more bullish. We are delivering from this 4-hour key level overall in a higher time frame buy model as well. So leaning more bullish again, pretty neutral though, because we do have unfilled higher time frame key levels like a 4-hour, or we tapped into a 4-hour, whatever, above us either way. So yeah. I think this is what happened at 9:30. So we had this unfilled hourly gap below us, and we also had another one as well right below us here. And we did have data wicks in this trade. So this was a data candle here at 8:45. We had news, and we had this data wick right here. So oh my gosh, yeah, right here, which was a pretty good draw on liquidity. Boom. So basically, simple enough. Just let's see what market open does and kind of go from there. Um, yep. So boom, market ends up. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is really clean. So market ends up opening higher here, generating more liquidity towards that data high, and then we get manipulation into this unfilled hourly gap, which is also I think it was a 30-minute, if I'm not mistaken, also a 30-minute gap as well. Swept out a bunch of liquidity here in this internal range, and then immediately after we had this manipulation, which I would still definitely count as involved with the 930 PO3, considering 930 opened higher, ended up generating more liquidity towards low resistance liquidity towards that target, and then we had that manipulation move lower at 9:35 into this unfilled hourly gap, also being a 30-minute gap, and we did edge this one lower, but again, it was all about the displacement. Like if we were going to displace out of this, then we had no reason to be looking at this hourly gap below us as something that we would have to go to. And then as we can see right here, we had this beautiful candle, great displacement. 1 minute inversion, super clean stuff. Stop right here, break even at this internal high, targeting the data high. And you would have been break even right here, and then it's just beautiful. Just bang, 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 bang. Um, really simple trade. I'm not gonna lie. Just a 930 generated liquidity, then we manipulated, and then we distributed towards DOL. It doesn't really get much simpler than that. You don't need to overcomplicate things. Very simple stuff. And then I think we ended up getting a 15-minute count later on in the session, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so we ended up inversing this 15-minute gap. And then we ended up opening another 15-minute gap, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was at like 10:30 or 10:15. Yeah, 10:15 ends up opening this 15-minute gap. Yeah, this looks, oh my god, this looks beautiful as well. Oh my god, I wish I was trading today. It would have banked. Oh my gosh. And then we, anyway, so we ended up opening a 4-hour. I don't know. Maybe we didn't. We didn't. I think it was a 4-hour on ES. We ended up opening. Um, and then as we can see, we just had that beautiful 10:30. Oh my goodness! We inverse this 15-minute gap. We left low resistance liquidity down here, building up towards that higher time frame DOL yet again. 10:30 opens up. What does 10:30 do? Easy 10:30 PO3 into this unfilled 15-minute fair value gap, or basically, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, into this 15-minute fair value gap. Oh my god, the LR stacking leading up to this higher time frame DOL, bro. This is A plus 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 plus. This is such a good trade. Really good DOLs. Inverse the 15-minute, opened up a bullish one. 10:30 PO3, instantaneous displacement. Bang, bang, bang. I think it was a 2-minute gap right here. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the close is pretty whack, but I'm not gonna lie. I still would have taken this and realistically just held for a 1-to-1. Kind of prayed for a 1-to-1 here, break even at the internal low. And let's see how this ends up playing out. Yeah, it's just oh my god, this is so clean. This is so A plus. Also, there's two ways you could have played this. You could have taken the 2-minute inversion directly, or else you could have just waited for a small retrace here at 9:37, entered like right here, and then just targeted whatever you'd like to target there. Target your 1-to-1 or whatever it may be. But as you can see, this 1-to-1 ends up playing out beautifully. A plus trade, 10:30 PO3, time discount, price discount, LR building up to higher time frame DOL. Oh my god, this PA this week has been really good. I'm not gonna lie. I really hope this keeps up. And we start bursting out of this range as well. Would be nice if we could. start bursting out of this range, maybe making a move lower here, coming into Monday, and just yeah, hopefully. But overall, this week's price action has been really clean. And yeah, let's go over the trade really quick. What I ended up taking yesterday, but today's PA was super saucy. Very good PA. I am not gonna lie. So let's go over yesterday really quick, so I can just show you guys what I ended up taking. Obviously, I didn't trade today, so I can't really give you the best insights. But let's go to 9 o'clock here. So what are we doing on the higher time frame here? Overall, I was pretty neutral on this. Overall, we were looking pretty bullish on the higher time frame in a sense that we are like delivering from 4-hour gaps. But don't mind this 4-hour close right after. By the way, this is after session. So this is after 10 a.m. So with this in mind, coming into today, pretty neutral bias. Overall, in the short term, looking kind of bearish, but higher time frame is looking bullish. So again, it was just another simple situation of where I was waiting, where I was simply just waiting to see what market open would do. So let's get into that right here. Market open ends up sweeping out London. Yep, so market ends up opening lower here, and then we got this 30-second long towards these 5-minute relative equal highs, which is not a bad trade, but I think it's pretty pattern in my opinion, especially when we also had this 15-minute intermediate low lower here inside of this key level. So you're technically just rejecting off of no key level here, and you can't really say we were rejecting off the 15 because we just weren't. We were inside of an hourly gap, I guess, but considering how we've been treating this hourly gap, like I just think that was a pretty pattern trade. Targets were good though. Inverse was clean. Displacement was good. 930 PO3. Cool. But this is going to come into the trade that I ended up taking. So we had this 5-minute gap where we left this high inside of this 5-minute gap. 930 ended up making a move lower, generating more liquidity, in my opinion, to the downside here, and then we ended up getting a move higher, which swept out that internal high inside the 5-minute gap. And now a lot of people were wondering about the hourly gap here that you would have at your stop loss. But the reason why I didn't feel that I had to wait for that hourly gap was pretty simple. We had this 30-minute gap. We ended up tapping this 30-minute gap right here, and we ended up displacing off of this gap, and then we had this 5-minute. So what does that mean? This means that this 5-minute gap is a sponsored gap by the higher time frame. Now, we could have definitely went to that 30-minute to that hourly unfilled gap, but again, I was just going off what the market was telling me, and if we really wanted to go there, right? So we ended up coming into this 5-minute gap, and what would you presume? If we are going to be bullish to that hourly gap, what would you expect to happen to this 5-minute? You would expect this 5-minute to not hold, and we'd end up displacing through it. But we ended up just hesitating in this 5-minute gap here. So during this hesitation point, oh, go back, what are you doing? Yeah, so during this hesitation point right here, I was like, okay, cool. This is kind of like going to be my condition. If we end up displacing lower out of this fair value gap, that means we are going to hold this 5-minute, and like I can look at this 5-minute, this sponsored 5-minute as a valid key level for us to reject off and start making moves lower. However, if we were going to start displacing through this 5-minute, then I can 100% just presume the hourly gap. It was literally just an if this, then that scenario. Really simple stuff. Yeah, you don't have to overcomplicate things. That's literally all I was seeing. And then what do we do in these next two candles? Bang! Bang! Instantaneous displacement right through that 5-minute after we accumulated for a minute here. So at this point, I was like, okay, cool, I'm taking this. And this is my condition. If this, then that. My target for this trade was simply just that 15-minute internal low. Break even was at the New York AM session low right here. And that trade played out in 1, 2, 3. So this trade literally played out in 3 minutes. It was a really clean trade. Or no, wait, sorry. Yeah, 3 minutes. It was really clean. And then, of course, you could have ended up targeting Asia lows with this, which we did end up running to right after as well. So overall, really clean continuation model to the downside. I love the way I handled this situation and didn't think that we needed to go to the hourly. I set this 5-minute as my condition, and then the displacement through or out of it as also my condition as well. Let's go over to the second trade, because I ended up taking another trade today, which was on an evaluation account, which I ended up passing today, or yesterday as well. So I ended up passing a lucid 50k by full porting this account, or just risking 4 minis. So yeah, I was full porting this account on this trade just to pass another eval. So at this point, we had 10 a.m. was already done and completed, and as we can see, we had an unfilled 4-hourly gap below us right here, 4 hourly. We had an unfilled 4-hour right below us right here, a bullish one, and we ended up inversing this bullish one right here. So at this point, we ended up leaving a low resistance liquidity building up to this 4 hour gap. So I was still liking it, even though there was no higher time frame continuations. Again, I realistically probably would not have taken this on an actual account. This was simply just a eval trade. So boom, we ended up inversing this 5 minute gap, which I was holding as my condition. And the reason why I was holding this bullish 5 minute as my condition is because we did have an SMT inside of a 4 hour on the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 was already inside of a 4 hour at this point, but just because the S&P 500 is inside of a 4 hour, it does not mean the Nasdaq doesn't want to go there as well, which is why, especially just how bearish this market open has been overall. We've had continuation model right here, continuation model right here. They've all been playing out to the downside, and we have inversed the final bullish gap, or the 4 hour bullish gap in this leg. So there's literally no reason for Nasdaq to move higher. The only reason that it would be due to the S&P 500. So we ended up opening this 5 minute gap right here after we inversed the bullish one. This is always like a really key thing as well that I feel that happens a lot. When we inverse a bullish gap, open up a bearish, and then hop into that bearish and then respect it and displace out of it, like the probability on those trades is always super high. That's exactly what happened today with the 15-minute cont. We ended up inversing a 15-minute bullish gap, opening up a 15-minute bearish gap, retracing to the 15-minute bearish gap with a 1030 PO3, and bang, ended up displacing out of it instantly, right? So that's something you guys should definitely be looking at all times. So the second we open up this 5 minute, boom, instant wick at 1025 right into this 5 minute gap, and then what happens right after? Boom, boom. CISD, I think we had a 30-second here as well, but I wanted to see the CISD close on this, so I ended up entering this trade, targeting like literally just, I think it was my stop loss was like right here, and I was just targeting this low, just to pass the account because I entered this trade with 4 minis, so I did not need to catch that much points. Bang, simple enough, simple stuff. We ended up going to the 4 hour here, and then after that, I don't know, we ended up just accumulating in this 4 hour and doing whatever. But that was basically it for me. So I ended up taking this trade on the evaluation account at 1026, hitting full TP and passing another eval. And then on this account, I ended up catching on my funded account, which was the original trade of the day, in my opinion, and this 5 minute cont. Really, really simple stuff. So yeah, let me guys, bro, if I say let me guys, like I say it every video, I don't know what it is, but let me know if any of you guys ended up taking anything today or yesterday. And leave it in the comments below. And if you have any questions on any of the trades that I took, or if you've seen something different, please let me know in the comments. Or if you want to talk to me personally, you can add my Discord, Instagram, or TikTok, which will be in the bio of this video. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and looking forward for next week. Hopefully next week's price action will be as good as it was this week's. This week's price action was amazing. Super happy with this week's price action and the way I traded it overall. Definitely would have caught another winning day, a banger today if I was on, but sadly I was in work, so I wasn't able to trade today. Is what it is. Beautiful setup, so I hope you guys definitely capitalized on one of those two setups that happened today. I think trade of the day today was the 15-minute cont, but the trade off of market open where we ended up going into the 1 hour then displacing towards the data highs was also A+. Two A+ trades today, both played out very nicely. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great weekend, and until Monday.